Hello, my name is Keith Haswell and I'm a professional astrologer with 25,000 clients worldwide, and I've been practicing astrology for 38 years, and it's my pleasure to welcome you to my website and to my teachings. On this one I want to speak about the most exciting question that all of us must posit, and that is, what is the origin of life? Where did we come from? Were we created by intelligent design, or did we just evolve out of dead matter into what we are today through some process of evolution? The process of evolution, or natural selection, as opposed to intelligent design. And it's a very, very exciting subject. Now, the whole idea of creation and intelligent design was pretty much accepted by the scientific community up until 1851. Now, along came Charles Darwin, and at the age of 22, in 1831, he set out on a 5-year exploratory mission on behalf of the English government, and he went around sailed around the south of South America and up to the other side into the Pacific Ocean, and he went to the Galapagos Islands, and there he saw a whole bundle of species of animals that he'd never seen before. And one group of these animals that really attracted his attention, and he spent a month researching them all, were 12 species of finch. And these 12 species of finch all had different types of beaks. And the idea was that in times of plenty of rain and plenty of seed, these finches with the short beaks were able to get plenty of grain for themselves, and there was plenty of seeds around for them to be able to get that grain. But in times of drought, the only seeds that were available were seeds that were left over from the previous year, and therefore the ones with the long beaks were the ones who were able to access those grain and those seeds, to be able to use their long beaks to chip through the hardened casings of the old grain. And so consequently it got him thinking about what was it that made all of these different types of species of finch. And so he went back, after studying all of this for a month, he went back to England, and he spent 20 odd years, 25 years or so, compiling a thesis, a doctrine, a hypothesis, a theory, a teaching on the origin of species. And Charles Darwin's Origin of Species transformed the thinking processes of the scientific community of the time, and have pervaded the whole scientific line of thinking since then. And his basic idea was that through a process of natural selection, all of the different species of animals have gradually evolved and made very gradual changes over hundreds of thousands of years of evolution, and eventually over billions of years. They've been able to make very small changes in their biological structure and in their form, so that what happened was that the ones who had evolved to have some advantage over the ones that weren't so evolved, the they had advantage over the ones that weren't so evolved. And so therefore, over a period of billions of years, there was many changes made, gradual changes to the various species. And so that was the accepted line of scientific thinking until the 1950s. In the 1950s, the molecular biologists, with their electron microscopes and everything, were able to actually get down through magnification of 50,000 times into the cell, which is the basic building block. In Darwin's days, it was thought that the cell was just some sort of protoplasm, which was the natural building block, and that protoplasm was activated to life in the primordial pond of life through some electrical activity and amino acids and all these different things all put together to create the first living cell. And then that replicated itself and grew into this and that and eventually into us. But what they've been able to discover in the 50s through molecular biology is that the cell is made up of all of these different component parts. And they all are very complex in contributing to the makeup of the cell and the functionality of the cell. Now there's thousands of different proteins that work inside the cell, working together with amino acids in order to be able to make up the structure of the cell. And there's different machines which are basically machines which have the function to carry out certain processes within the cell in order to be able to keep it viable and keep it alive. And one of the things that they found inside this cell was a bacterial flagellar motor. And this motor is made up of about 40 component parts that are all necessary to the functionality of this motor. So there's all these thousands of different proteins, 30,000 distinct proteins that have been identified, and 20 different types of amino acids, and these all work together like letters in the alphabet. If you just throw all the letters up in the air, then it all comes out as gibberish. But if they're put into their right sequence, then it makes comprehensible, intelligible reading. So these amino acids work together with the proteins in order to be able to build protein chains. It's very complex, I know, what I'm trying to convey to you, but the basic idea is that these cells are made up of hundreds of different machines that all function within the cell in their own particular way. And they have what's called irreducible complexity. In other words, they're like a mousetrap. A mousetrap is made up of 5 component parts. There's the base, which is the wooden base. There's what's called the hammer, which comes back and held by a spring, and there's a catch that lobs over the top of that hammer and hooks onto a bait trap where the cheese is put on. Any part of that mousetrap that's not there means that the mousetrap is not functional, and so consequently it won't work. And this is exactly the same thing with these little motors that they've found inside the cell, that they have what's called shafts and propellers and tails to guide them around inside the liquid of the cell, inside the body of the cell. And without these component parts of these little motors couldn't have possibly come by the process of natural selection, because take away any component part of that motor and it's not functional, and so therefore couldn't have been added to over a period of thousands of years to make it into something that's functional. It had to be functional in the first place, and that brought in intelligent design. And then later on in the second half of the 20th century, they discovered DNA, and the DNA is what contained all of the information within it to get all of these different component parts working in a structured form. And that's what's happened to the idea of Darwin's theory of evolution, is that it's all broken down, and science is gradually starting to accept through the thinking scientists that the whole of reality is created, and us in particular and all the various species are all created by intelligent design. Now, I've spoken to you about the science of astrology, and I've spoken in other videos, and I've spoken to you about the different fields of play that we exist in, and the different component parts that make up our bodies and so forth. And this is where science can't make sense of everything, because their instruments can't measure the ether, and so they also can't measure emotional energy, and they can't measure mental energy and higher energies that are more subtle than the mental plane. So this is intelligent design comes from the higher dimensions, so that even the cell and the working of the proteins and the putting together of all those proteins by amino acids and by DNA working with those amino acids, it's all being designed by the more subtle planes of the etheric levels. And there you've got the counterpart of those ideas and those thought forms in the emotional plane, and the counterparts of those are in the mental plane. So in other words, a cell is the expression of an idea, a divine idea, an intelligent idea. And each part of our body, all of the bowels and the kidneys and the bladder and the liver and the heart and the lungs and the circulatory system and the brain, all works because of ideas. And so this is where we're heading as a humanity. We are heading into an understanding that we are the result of divine ideas, the ideas of God and Goddess, and that our task is to cooperate with the functionality and the plans that God and Goddess have for the human race. So it's nice to have this opportunity to be able to talk with you here on the basis of natural selection as opposed to intelligent design. And I'll be doing other videos on thought forms and how they work and how they function, and all sorts of other things that I'll talk to you about to help you to become more of the giant that you truly are. So thank you for your attentiveness, and submit your birth details if you haven't done so far, and I'll be happy to do your horoscope for you free of charge to help you to understand more about yourself and who you really are and the giant that you have inside of yourself. Thank you.